Hey guys, it's Addon, welcome back to the channel, and today we're heading out from Alaska. It's the end of winter, or approaching the end of winter I should say, and we're starting to head towards spring. So weather's really nice, but it's still very snowy out, and I wanted to give the AN-2 a really good shake. I did a quick first look video of it, and I've had people say, oh god, you didn't really, I wish you'd look at the manuals first. Well, it's a first look for a reason, I'm checking out what you as a customer will get. I'm not going to be an expert of anything I do for those reviews, but I do like quite a lot of them. Now, this is an aircraft I've always loved, and I figure let's give it a real good kick. Let's take it for a trip. Let's take her into the Alaskan bush. We're heading up to Thompson Pass, which is just up Highway 4 from Valdez. It's called the snowiest place in Alaska, and we're going to find out why. Maybe I should have brought skis, but the runway's cleared here at Merrill K. Smith, aka Mudhole, here near Cordova, and we're going to take her for a good run today. So, once everything's decided it wants to settle down in the sim, we'll go run through our startup checklist and we'll actually get this thing going properly. So, flight controls are free and correct. Yes, they are. Wonderful. Attitude indicator's caged. It's caged. Battery switch is on. Where's that? That is here. Or it's one of these bloody buttons. You know how it likes to hide things. Oh, it's right there. So those are on. Comms and switches are on. Those are coming on. Fuel shutter valve is open. Oh, they hid it there. Cool. Fuel shutter valve done. Pneumatic valve open. System is open and charged. Okay. Air pressure more than 0. We have more than 0. Parking brake is set. Set. Fuel selector to both. I'm assuming left, right, both. Cool. Okay, we have both. Beacon is already on. Look at my switches under my desk. Turn my light on quickly so I can see what I'm doing. It's technically on, but I can't switch it on because my controls for my actual sim set have it set as on. So that's all good. The lights are all where they need to be. Anti-fire power switch is going to be... I do love how this is accurate to where these switches are. It's on. Engine parameter gauge power switch is on. Fuel indicator switch is on. Gonna guess that needs to be on. Gonna guess that needs to be on as well. Fuel meter gauge mode switch to both. I don't speak Russian, so I'm going to leave it here. You know what? It's been a while since I brought back my pilot Misha, so we're going to be flying today like this. Why not? Fuel quantity enough for flight. Looks like plenty. Starting engine. IRPM. Let's make sure this is in forward position. Correct. This is set back to just cracked. Mixture is set to on. Okay, mixture is rich. Fuel manual pump is 3 to 4 times. Okay, this is not complicated at all to actually do. Click and drag, okay? There we go. Manual fuel pump is the doodads. Magnetos to both. Set to both. Okay, prop area is clear. Magnetos to both. Starter master on. Which will be this one. Starter switch to spin up. So if I am correct, that will be... It's like it wants to do that, but because I have Honeycomb Alpha, it's like, hahaha, no, Bliat, you're not going to work. So, I'm going to just have to skip the whole kind of inertial starter, spinning it up and then meshing like the EC3 engine, and we're just going to do this. Lack of sound is disturbing. Why do you not wish to start? There we go. I press Ctrl E and everything works now. Which is annoying that I have to do that, but it is what it is. I swear to God, like, I love having my honeycomb system. I love it. It's wonderful. The starter and all my buttons on my controls are fantastic. It's so tactile. I adore that. What irritates me, though, is when things decide they really just want to sped out. And why my instruments are flashing here, I have no idea. That's not connected to that. That's not connected to that. What isn't actually started? That's a tailwheel lock. That's a power inverter. That's what we needed to do, apparently. It was starting on and off and flickering, so hopefully these are now starting up. Wonderful. So we'll let our systems warm up here. Yeah, some aircraft for some reason are compatible with the switches you have on your Honeycomb system. Some don't kind of force it. Problem is with them being here and connected to certain buttons in presets. Unless I'm going to fly an aircraft regularly, I won't unmap them because I use them very often on most. Which means some aircraft I have to skip a step, like the starter on this is unfortunate. But I digress. Everything is spinning up and warming up nicely here. I don't read Russian, but I can look at dials and they look to be about correct, so we'll be okay. So those systems are coming up. Wonderful. What do you do? It's emergency flaps. I don't need that. Okay. Right. Parking brake is released. We're going to taxi out the runway. Now we have calm winds today here at Cordova Smith. It is 0 knots wind, which is lovely. But it's going to be about 3 to 4 knots once we get up towards Thompson Pass. There we go, slowly braking. You know what, there's plenty of runway. We'll use this. Intersection departure. Looks to be clear left. What is that? Could have sworn I saw something there. Is it? No, it's dot on window. Okay, looking good. Out we go. No need for flaps, it's big runway. We'll be okay. And we'll end up straight? Well, straight enough for Russian road, at least. Why not? And we are away, because this biplane huge lift does not need much. Far too big runway for this. 7,000 feet. Yeah, too much. Excess. Okay, so we're going to climb out here and perform post-takeoff checklists. Set power to climb. And pull back RPM for climb power or so. Check for tractor. No tractor. We're okay. Now, I've got some mountains to climb over today, and I don't worry, I'm not going to torture you with the accent the entire time. That would be horrific. I'll save it for opportune moments, but... No, the AN-2 is a very cool little plane. I really like them as a concept. They're almost like the Russian Beaver. And God, I can't believe I'm saying that, but yeah. It's basically the Russian DHC-2. It's the agricultural bush plane that can do most things, can get in and out of almost anywhere. Floats, skis, wheels, the do-anything plane. The pickup truck with wings. And I like that about planes, and this fits that category. And speaking of planes in that category, it looks like we're getting big radials Norseman very, very soon. That is what I'm very excited for. Very, very, very excited for. Alright, so trim is set. There we go, we're airborne and we're en route here, so we should be good. Now, the mountains are going to provide some interest to this journey at least. Let's let my rudder neutralize out here. Clicking you can hear is the trim wheel. Or the trim switch in this aircraft particularly. I forget, do these open? Oh, they do. I gotta say, this is a lovely interior. It's very rustic, and this greenhouse canopy is delightful. Let's have some fresh air, shall we? Hello, everybody okay back there? Don't throw up. If you do this, bucket on back wall. Okay, good. Now, bush planes have always been my thing. For as long as I've enjoyed flight simming, and I think the biggest part of bush flying for me came from back in FSX. The world was kind of meh. But we got the Orbex regions. One of the first ones I picked up was the Pacific Fjords region. And my god, that was beautiful. Between that, the PNW, the Central Rockies, the Northern Rockies, I fell in love with flying in those areas, and I fell in love with flying small planes in bad weather in big terrain. And it became an absolute passion for me. And it's been 14 years of that, really. and I can't get enough of it. I personally can't find enjoyment in taking off from an international airport, climbing up on autopilot, flying a route and landing again. Like, I understand charts, I understand SIDS and stars, I understand procedure and protocol, but for me, nothing beats a plane, you, the environment, a map, a route, a plan, difficult terrain, weather that will trouble you, mountains and terrain that will get in the way. That's exciting to me. It's really enjoyable. Need a bit more power here to try and climb up over this mess. As I've realised, I need to check the sim, because the sim is most likely going to be special. For once, it's not being special. I tried to record this video last night, which is why this is coming out on Wednesday rather than a Tuesday. For some reason last night, despite my internet being completely fine and pushing 500 megasecond, it decided, it absolutely insisted that I had low bandwidth and it was going to kill my photometry data. As the sim does sometimes. Climb up over this pass and we should be okay. This thing has serious climb power, I must say. I feel like I'm in an elevator. The lift these wings generate is huge. It feels so strange flying a biplane that's got this much power. It's the 1,000 horsepower engine and it really does show. You have some serious get up and grunt with this aircraft and it really does not feel like it even cares, to be honest. But a huge prop like this one has and 1,000 horsepower, huge wings, it's not going to be fast, but my god, it can climb. Climbing up over the mountains. I'm looking forward to the snow starting to melt because summer will be beautiful here. And I've not done as much flying in Alaska as I'd like to because I've done plenty off screen, but I know you guys aren't going to be enthused with watching every video be full of snow. We've got our nose down here. Just below the crest on that side. There we go. We should be coming over this ridgeline ahead of us. And then we'll be good. Looking good. Yep, everything looks and appears to be good. We're in green arcs across the aircraft. What's our altitude looking like? Okay. I left this caged. Or did I? I'm pitching up. No, that's caged. That's not caged. That's not reacting at all. Interesting. Push. Yeah. Yep, it's working now. That was misbehaving. That's a mountain. It was misbehaving itself. So this is one of the downsides of some of these parts of Alaska, is the terrain can get a little bit murky due to photometry, especially when it's the snow and winter season. When things start to green out, it can be a lot prettier. I'm actually going to cut through here in the pass. Use this as a way through to ease climbing over that ridgeline ahead of us, which is pretty significant. Just nudge the tail around and we'll be just fine. Pull the power back out. And we should be clear up the channel here, up the valley. This is the kind of flying that enthuses me. It excites me because you have to consider your ability to climb, the terrain, the conditions. It really does add to things and make things feel so much more frontier. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's something to me about bush flying being the last refuge of the Wild West. You got places like Montana, you got places like Alaska where, you know, life is very much still the last vestiges of the Wild West, but in aviation, bush flying is that frontier. You are going to places other people won't or can't, and you're doing things others wouldn't or couldn't. And it makes it exciting. But I mentioned, of course, the Norseman. The Norseman was a cousin, really, of the Beaver. Nerudan, I believe, made it. I'm probably mispronouncing that one, but they made the Norseman, and it was a competitor, shall we say, to the Beaver in terms of what it could do. Often found on floats and wheels and skis, same sort of stuff. It filled a very similar role. Now, the other aircraft we know is coming soon is the Stinton Executive, which I believe is coming from INI builds, like the 108 Typhoon. That had an update recently, by the way, which added an autopilot functionality to its electronic flight bag. Same with their P40. Both had updates, and it's not realistic, but it's a nice feature for when you need to step away from the computer, which is great. I'd rather do that than pause. Now, also simulating a really long flight, you don't want to sit there and fly the stick the entire time, so it can be quite useful. Realism isn't always necessary when it comes to flight simming in every aspect of life. This is why I guess I'm head scratching a little bit with some of the black square aircraft. They've just released the Baron. I was going to review it, but I just reviewed the Bonanza. It's very similar. The flight model isn't going to be that different to what we already had, and other than the instruments, which are largely, as it's a Beechcraft cockpit, going to be very similar. I don't necessarily get on with that. Why? But this is going to sound really weird here, but I swear sim aircraft make things harder than a real aircraft. Starting up an aero engine, a modern aero engine, is not that hard in a GA aircraft. I'm not sure if it's a bug with that particular model or it's something else, but that thing can flood so fast. You can build up, you know, deposit on the spark plugs so fast. Like, my god, it's like difficulties turn up to 11. And I've been trying DCS recently. Yes, finally, me. I have been trying DCS, and I find it's not more realistic, it's just harder. As though harder is some arbitrary qualifier of skill and realism. It's not. You know how I start a 152 or a 172? I get in, I turn the fuel on. I turn the fuel boost pump on. I maybe prime it if it's cold. Mixture on. Turn the key. Or equivalent starting procedure in whichever particular order it is. Someone in the comments is going to go, actually, your mixture needs to be capped before you start the engine and introduce fuel. Depends on the engine. Depends on the aircraft. Depends on how that particular airframe feels that day. There are many nuances. And starting an engine is a very often individual procedure depending on the age of the aircraft and the engine. It can be very weird at times. But it's like starting the tractor I grew up on at home. It's like starting a car. They're not complicated. There can be complications under certain conditions, but to flood an engine, you really have to try. Like DCS, I bought the Spitfire module, I believe they call them. I took it for a flight. And not only are the flight controls insanely hard to get set up right in terms of how smooth it feels in terms of input, I found it less difficult. Twitchier and more complicated, yes, but it was overall not as realistic as, for example, the because it's Mark 9 you can get in that. Mark 9 from Flying Iron simulations was, I believe, far more realistic. The Flying Iron Spitfire has the real aircraft's tendency, because of the power and torque of the Merlin engine. When you take off, the aircraft will lift up its right wheel. If you do not hold right stick on takeoff in a Spitfire, the right main gear will pick up and you may wing strike on the left. That's a real tendency of the Spitfire. The DCS one doesn't do that. But if you try and roll or pitch at all, it's like you just hit it with a keyboard control. It's like, eh! And around it goes. This is flying the DCS Spitfire. See, I can't even make it as jerky as I can in this. But I feel like trying to be stable is like... Yeah, this is so smooth. I can't accurately replicate the stupidity. But it just feels twitchy. And that twitchiness isn't necessarily realism. I kind of honestly feel like the control mapping is really derpy in it a little bit, and the scalars in terms of how you can set up, you could set up almost dead zones and smooth areas, but setting up sensitivity it feels almost limited. Now that might be different per module, in fact I expect it will be, but the core kind of mechanics of how the DCS sim allows you to set things up, to me feels clunky. Is it worth me basically being able to shoot at stuff for that? I don't know. I also picked up the IL-2 recently, and I'm picking up the Normandy 44 stuff for that. I'll give it a crack, I'll see how it is, and I might record a video with it if you guys are interested in that kind of thing, but honestly, I genuinely find the Flying Iron simulation Spitfire here far more realistic. I could follow the same startup procedures Spit pilots follow for their scramble starts, and I can start and get to 5,000 feet within 3 minutes. I've been practicing, which is really fun actually. But it just feels more fluid. Everything feels more like there is air. That's, I think, the big thing for me, is DCS did not feel as though air was between me, the aircraft, and the environment. It felt like you were in space. There was nothing kind of pushing back against you. Maybe that's why it felt twitchy. Hopefully we'll get across this ridge, by the way. We're starting to lose some speed. And we are climbing quite significantly here. But we've got a bit of a rough way to get through. Should be easier once we get over this ridge line here. With very low winds today, we shouldn't get a lot of up and down drafts. But I should be able to push through this. Give it all the beans. We're losing a bit of our engine top end altitude here, but we should be alright. Still got 94 knots going. I've been waffling a great deal here. Now, we are apparently expecting a 4-engine Warbird from Flying Iron soon. That is exciting. Could be a B-17, could be a not Lancaster. We know that Aeroplane Heaven's making a Lancaster. Snow is often so very hard to judge your actual distance over it on. I don't want to drop my nose too soon here. There we go. Wonderful. It could be a Liberator. I'd love a Liberator. B-17s kind of get overdone. Give me a Liberator. Give me a good Liberator. Give me a Halifax. We got the Sterling from Batavia. The cockpit's far better than they used to do, but the exterior's not great. Can I put up with it? Maybe. I'm not sure. It's one of those weird kind of questions. Looks like Thompson Pass should be ahead of us and down below. I'm expecting it to be over there. So our time should be dropping down now. We're 7 minutes out. People have criticised this aircraft because they don't speak Russian, and that's fair enough. I don't speak Russian either. But at the same time, not every aircraft you can speak the language. I quite like World War II German aircraft, but I don't necessarily speak German. But I can know enough to translate the kilometers, etc., and meters, kilometers an hour, meters to altitude, and to what I need to know. And generally, if you're looking at the numbers, you have a good idea of what you're doing. I know right now we're probably around 7,000 feet and descending. I know that airspeed is on the high end, so I'm going to start pulling power here as we descend. Might actually have predicted a little bit short on our destination, but we're okay. We're on our final leg now, and the terrain's starting to drop below us, so we actually have got some leg room to descend, drop power, and actually still maintain a good airspeed. It's a little on the quick side, though. Considering we have relatively calm winds, or had calm winds at the reporting stations, granted all reporting stations were lower down, those winds can definitely change higher up in the mountains. I've not felt any buffeting. It's been a very smooth flight. We have got live weather on today. The flight has been very smooth, so I think the weather or wind conditions, and looking at the sky, it's pretty puffy and pretty light and scattered, so yeah, light wind, low wind definitely feels about right for this. The ridgeline there. Maybe we did need those skis after all. Unfortunately, the AN-2 has the option of straight skis or wheels, not wheel skis like the Beaver, which is an advantage when you take it off from somewhere that has a cleared runway and going somewhere that doesn't have cleared ground. But I will say this has very pleasant flight characteristics. A lot of these famous flyers can be a little bit weird in one way or another, but this is not bad at all. There's the valley down below us. Anyway, you don't really need to learn Russian, you just need to know what things are and what they do. Like, we've also got these wonderful, very convenient little pop-ups that people say, oh, turn off, it looks unrealistic. You're laughing now, huh? Yeah, who's laughing now as I see upper wing flap power? Or I see panel lights, or I see power inverter, not freaking blin. Yeah. Why is that not on? Weird. Everything's bloody weird. Right, 4 minutes. Maybe this is us coming up here. So it's around the corner from where I suspected, rather than exactly at it, but we shouldn't be far now. Thompson Pass should be somewhere along the Highway 4, which could mean it's coming through here, so... I may just be spatially disorientated from this route we're taking. But as we descend down, we'll get a better image of where we need to go. As soon as we spot the highway, we know we're in the right location. But now, like I said, realism is a very, very weird scale. And I can go fly a plane if I want to. It's a lot more stressful and less fun than the sim. Your life is on the line, and there are a lot of regulations to deal with, a lot of airspace, a lot of checks, a lot of procedures, and it can be quite tiring. I enjoy flight sim because I don't have to worry about half of those things because it's a game. I could enjoy that frontier feeling of just me and the plane. Me, the plane, a map, and a cup of tea. That's the dream, right? Just you, an aeroplane, and a hot drink, a map. That's exactly what you want. Alright, 2 minutes away. I suspect we're down here in the middle. Somewhere. We can't be any further. We're 5 miles out. Unless it's behind this ridgeline, isn't it? Yep, it's behind this ridgeline. Because that'll be... Actually, that's the highway there. Because that's the way down to Valdez, around the corner there. So Valdez is down to the end of there, take a right. Unless Thompson is down here somewhere, which I think it might be. I could be on crack. Entirely plausible. Because the main highway you can see there. Although I'm pretty sure the space-time continuum has said it's round the bend here. Yeah, there's the highway. Okay. I was wrong. The highway leads us up here. Oh, let's get the nose down a little bit here. We're starting to lose some speed. Very powerful. This thing just does whatever I want. It's insane. It's a little quicker than a Beaver. But my god, it will just do whatever I want it to do. It feels like I have unlimited power. As long as I'm kind of keeping myself mild for my cruise settings. It's got enough headroom in there to really grunt. So we're looking at about 3 knots of wind here, and I believe it's going to be from our north. So we'll find the airport, we'll circle around and we'll come into land. So it should be up here. There's the highway now. So by my best estimation, round the corner here, we're going to see the airport. Now, there's a good chance it'll be covered in snow. We are looking for an asphalt runway. It's 2,400 feet long. Way more than we need for this aircraft. In fact, I see runway, I think. I think I see runway. Yeah, it's one of those sections where runway and highway are kind of the same deal. Welcome to Alaska. Those are power lines down there. In fact, they are all along that strip. Where's my runway? Yeah. Where is my runway? Is that it? Yep, that's it there. Okay, we got it. I've got eyes. Okay. So here comes the tricky part. Let's use some of the grunt from this AN-2 to get us around. We're in a relatively confined valley. Not super bad, but it's not great. Thankfully, she has a very potent turn radius, and with 2 big wings, you're really going to struggle to stall this thing. Or spin it. Alright, so we're looking to basically follow along that ridge line there. So if you can see from the side window, our runway is there parallel to that ridge line. So that's our marker, and we need to be probably at approach by there. And there's a bridge just before it, so we'll come down here a little way and we'll set ourselves up. This is definitely not a traffic pattern type airport. This is a find your way in and get there. 3 knots of headwind should be just fine. Alright, let's start giving ourselves 2 notches of flaps here just to kind of give it a bit of a teaser. Let's neutralize everything there. Flaps are coming in. Ridgeline in sight, airfield in sight. So if we come along here, we'll be able to make what is essentially a base turn over this small hillock in front of us. And set ourselves up for an approach. Now, it's very snowy down there, so I'm going to be careful, but it is a paved runway. So we're going to want to come in with the least energy possible. Okay, let's drop that off there. 65 knots by the looks of things. Little high, little fast. Let's drop that. Nice and easy. Keep our nose high. Burn some of this away. Need to be able to see where I'm going. That's a tree. Moderate our landing point with throttle. Let's bring the nose round. Big tree, big tree, big tree. Big tree. This is my worst landing ever. Dear God. That's a bush, that's a bush. God, that was friggin' awful. I don't bounce. Am I too fast? I must be too fast. I don't bounce aeroplanes. Not this much. It's like this thing has lift for days. And I'm going too fast even at like 58 knots. I don't know what it is. I suck, and I'm going to show you that I suck because I'm human. But the nose on this thing, look how tall this is. Like, getting a good vision on landing is super hard. I almost feel like I need to continue down in the slip to really kind of let this thing do its job. But it is a monster. Yeah, like the nose is so high up. God, that was awful. I bounced, I clipped a couple of bushes. It was a very Russian landing, I'll give it that. Maybe it is accurate. Maybe it is accurate to the AN-2 because it lands like I'm drunk. Or I land like I'm drunk, maybe. Where's the way in? There's the way in. And it's not exactly a small plane too. Like, having to see where you're going here is so hard. Just stand up in the cockpit. And there's a car parked inside that shed. Well, that was an arduous experience. Yeah, like, it's the height you are off the runway is quite significant. Size of that prop, size of those wings, it's a monster. Wild monster. Yeah, and I just, again, I find it quite weird. I don't tend to bounce aircraft. I'd like to think I'm pretty smooth when it comes to touchdowns, but goddamn, I must have been too fast. Like, it felt like I was having to come in and drop it in over those trees, but it just didn't want to lose its lift. Although, I think part of that might be this airport and this scenery, because yeah, this is relatively fine until you deal with the fact that you have a rise here and the trees. So you're coming in over these trees and then having to drop it down to the runway, which with a steeper approach with less lift you could probably do if you were killing a lot of that lift, but otherwise it really doesn't quite like the approach. I think I was a little too far to the right as well, because that tree was very much in my vision. I think I was coming in here. I was parallel. And that's in familiarity with the aircraft. That's the nose being quite long and quite hard to see over. I was offline. That's what did it. I was offline, which meant I had to come in over this tree, drop to the side almost, and down. Yeah. See, I like to analyse what I do wrong, because it makes me better. It improves me for next time. And realising that if I probably straightened up a little bit here and come in this way, we'd probably have a better chance. Coming from the north is much harder, given that you've got the ridgeline there curling around to the end of the runway, and in snowy conditions, much harder to keep the runway in sight, get things pictured right, because visibility. So place to really land when you're familiar with it in the winter, I think, and more familiar with this aircraft. But we didn't die, so that's a win, right? I think that's a win. That counts. I'll stop blabbering. Hopefully you learn something from my stupidity. Bye.